watching Smart 24 TV, and this is Smart Means Business. This is Rita Caballero, and keep the conversation flowing from our social media platforms, that is ranging from YouTube, Facebook, and also on our website at Smart 24 TV. And now we continue driving businesses, bringing you the information sitting around the business areas. Chira Motors is having hope as the JINJA plant phase now hits the 96 completion. Let's dive into this one more. The Chira Motors Corporation is constructing a vehicle plant, and the construction is undertaken by the National Enterprise Corporation in the business arm of the UPDF, with technology consultants as they be supervising the consultants. Now the Chira Motors Corporation hits a 96 completion of the plant. Take a look.
The Chira Motors Corporation is constructing a vehicle plant, and the construction is undertaken by the National Enterprise Corporation, the business arm of the UPDF, with technology consultants as the supervising consultants. Alan Muhumuza, the Director Marketing and Sales at Chira Motors Corporation, says that phase 1 of the JINJA plant has hit 96% and that they will have an installed capacity facility of 5,000 vehicles per year, and that once that is complete, they will as well be able to manufacture buses.
And progress currently of phase 1 startup facilities is at 96% civil works, and we are now in the process of also procuring the production system and having it installed, and works to have commenced by mid of this year on site. We'll have an installed capacity for this facility of 5,000 vehicles per year. Once the whole phase 1 and 2 is complete, we should have capacity to produce buses, trucks, SUVs, and pickups. The pickups and SUVs might be more of a contract manufacturing methodology, but for the trucks and buses, we should be able to build right from here. The kind of processes that we'll be handling in this facility will be right from the chassis fabrication and frame fabrication. So you come in with your materials of steel, which we can also source locally. Of course, government is also investing a lot in developing the steel industry, right from processing of minerals, because we have a very rich deposit of iron ore. So after chassis fabrication and frame fabrication, get into the electrophoresis, where you're doing corrosion protection, and then a paint shop. Then after that, we get into the full body assembly, where now integrate systems, components, interior, exterior trim, and then head for quality and inspection.
Muhumuza adds that as Chira Motors, their target market for the buses comes in two forms, with the high flow for long distance travel like tours and travels, as well as schools, and the low flow buses that will focus on operators in towns, and the prices depend accordingly.
We're looking at for our buses, which is our entry product. We have two types of buses. We have the low flow city bus, and we already have an off-take of Tondeka Metro to develop to build for them 1,030 buses, 50 of them electric. And the other version is the coach, which is meant for long distance travel. Now, for the low flow city bus, that is mainly bus operators within the city. Now, for the high flow, we are looking at transport operators, which could be looking at cross-district travel or cross-border travel. We're looking at schools, because they also use similar devices for moving their students. Schools and education institutions, higher education institutions, private companies that might want to shuttle their staff, tour and travel companies. It could be the bus could be repurposed to be more of to enable tours and travels, with a different trim compared to what could be. And that is our value proposition, that first we are building a bus that the client needs. We're not just giving you a product off shelf. You come, we discuss your requirements, we build to your requirements, and we deliver to you your requirements.
He, however, notes that the COVID-19 pandemic halted the progression of the facility simply because the international logistics were impacted and that the lockdowns limited the movements of some employees, but he, however, applauded the National Enterprise Corporation for the work done.
COVID-19 has had an impact, especially towards the establishment of the facility. The international logistics were impacted, steel prices as well, and other commodities prices went higher than previously planned. But also during the periods of the lockdowns, where there were restrictions on site to have all the workers staying on site and limiting the numbers, so all that had an impact. But we have since evolved and seen how do we work around with the limiting occurrences as a result of the pandemic to be innovative. And I must appreciate National Enterprise Corporation for the diligence, the resilience through the season, through the period, to ensure that work continues. They have observed all SOPs on site right from the start. They have sensitized the local community. They have ensured that they support the vaccination drive and have had their workers vaccinated, even those that are coming from the local community, because in some instances over 80% of the close to 300 workers that you could typically find on this site are from the local community.
The long-term goal by Kira Motors and their EVs made in Uganda is to reduce air pollution in Kampala. That counts among the most populated cities in the world and the other major cities in the East African country. The State Enterprise's long-term plan is to produce 30,000 buses for the regional market, with 65% of parts and components localized by 2030. These buses will be supplied to Tondeke Metro, Redco and Golden Dragon.
Paul Sonko there reporting. And now, similarly related to the transportation sector, we have the fuel prices continuously going up. But now hopes are coming that maybe this could go down very soon. And there is a concern rising from the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises over the skyrocketing of fuel prices, which has largely caused the requirement from the Ministry of Health that all the truck drivers should be paying $30 for COVID-19 testing. But the truck drivers then felt that was very unfair from the ministry and went on strike. The dealers therefore took advantage of the hiking of the situation and hiked up the prices around fuel. Now, John Walugembe, who is the Executive Director of the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises, said Uganda, as the Ministry of Health, should expertise and do the testing for all the truck drivers to avoid this shipping.
Business at the Malaba border in Tororo district went on hold as truck drivers entered a strike protesting against the mandatory fee of $30 charged for COVID-19 testing as they crossed to the Ugandan side. Johnny Walugembe, the Executive Director of the Federation of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Uganda, urged the Ministry of Health to expedite the testing of all truck drivers to avoid these hiccups.
The Federation of SMEs is pleased that the Ministry of Health has since rescinded its decision to charge $30 for all COVID-19 tests. The resultant high fuel prices are affecting and impeding the ability of small businesses and the economy as a whole to get back on its feet after over 2 years of partial and complete lockdown. We therefore would like to urge all persons concerned to expedite the testing of all truck drivers in order to ensure that this crisis is resolved as soon as possible.
He was quick to condemn the acts of some fuel dealers who are taking advantage of this to hike oil prices, where he called on the government to implement the competition law for regulation.
We don't know, but we might suspect. Yes, we know that some rural petrol stations are taking advantage and are hiking the cost of a liter of petrol, particularly. But there could also be other actors. Maybe the major oil companies are also holding. Who knows? At the moment, we don't have a competition authority. And we are not just talking about consumer protection. We are talking about a regulator to ensure that people not just do things in the interest of the consumer, but there is fair play, even amongst themselves. So, if a school has no prefect, how do you know who started the strike and things of that sort? That's why I'm saying let us have a competition authority in place to ensure that we hold the different players in this economy to account. Yes, we are a market-based economy, we agree, but we need proper regulation.
The drivers who started the silent strike had parked their trucks and sealed off the road, saying that they will not cross to the Ugandan side until the government harmonizes its position on either reducing the charges or scrap them off completely like it's done from other countries. According to the drivers who were destined to various countries, the COVID-19 testing fee levied on them disregards the spirit of the East African community integration.
When you reach Nairobi, you pay for a test. When you're coming back, you test. When you're leaving, you test. This is too expensive and it's an inhibitor to trade and movement of goods and services and people. So we are asking our governments, and this time we're not just appealing to the Ugandan government, we're appealing to the EAC government and the governments within Africa. Please, the WHO and the Center for Disease Control has designated certain approved laboratories that COVID-19. Once a person has taken a COVID-19 test from that laboratory, all you need to do is to verify the authenticity of the test, and there's a digital platform through which you can do that. There is no need. Why then we should charge people $30 to redo a test that has been done and that you can verify?
The Prime Minister, Robin Anabanja, assured the country that the fuel supplies will be restored to normal soon, adding that the government is aware of the public concerns about raising fuel prices, assuring the country that there is no crisis.
We would like the Ministry of Health, going forward, to balance the need to keep the population safe with the need to keep our economy functioning. Any kind of rush decision that impacts on the ability of this economy to recover will make it much more difficult for Ugandans to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. This is not the first time that this has happened. It happened at Entebbe Airport, and after an outcry, the decision was rescinded. It's now happening at the border. So we'd like the Ministry of Health to come up with a comprehensive set of protocols for fighting COVID-19 pandemic. Secondly, we should not mix the need as a country to make money with the need to protect the health of Ugandans.
Government, through the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, assured the public that the fuel prices will return to normal soon once the long queues of trucks at the Kenya-Uganda border points of Malaba and Busia are cleared. This comes as fuel prices continues to escalate, with a litre of petrol now standing at 5,000 in some parts of the country. In Hoima and some areas around, a litre is said to be selling at 10,000. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24
Thank you, Pedson Mumbere there. Just to add on, as I was coming to work, even consecutively going back, I realized that OX, is it OX oil around oils, OX oils has got it now at 9,000, and Total, I realized it has got it at 6,000. From the area I pass. And then one petrol station, a gas station that has remained constant is Shell, 4,100. Can you imagine that? But at some point it made it at 4,600, but it didn't last for a day. They had to put it down. So appreciation to Shell, but also has costed it so much, because yesterday but one, there was none to be sold. So people were running out to Shell, but nothing else was there to be sold. And surely we hope the government of EC will come in and also dwell on the Minister Honorable Nabanja's decision that this situation will have to calm down very soon. But also, moving on, we see that the government should lay strategies through the rationalism, and this is the advice coming in from the civil society organization. According to the National Budget Strategy of 2020-2023, the government is advised to continue focusing on recovery measures and also efforts to make sure the COVID-19 pandemic goes on smoothly, as long as working hand in hand with different sectors to make sure economic recovery goes on effectively. The civil society organization have also urged government to table better strategies to reduce public wastage through rationalization of funds. Take a look at this and we return more.
According to the National Budget Strategy 2022-23, Government of Uganda will continue focusing on recovery measures from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic to meet its debt management objectives. The civil social organization have as well urged government to table better strategies to reduce public wastage through rationalization of funds.
We also would love to commend government for the strategy to reduce public wastage. Members, when you look at the NBFP, government is rationalizing funds and saving funds to a tune of 1 trillion, which is good to us because we still don't have enough money, and government has decided also to reduce some of the public wastage, which we have always called upon them to do. So in the budget 22-23, a total of 1 trillion is going to be rationalized majorly from consumptive expenditures from the different items.
They said that government should slow down the pace at which it contracts commercial external financing and domestic debt and contract concessional loans. Uganda's total public debt stock increased by 27.4% from 57 trillion in June 2020 to 69 trillion in June 2021. Public debt is further projected to increase to over 52.7% of the GDP by the end of financial year 2021-22 and peak at 53.1% at the end of the financial year 2022-23.
Again, the public debt is further projected to increase to over 52% of our GDP by the end of 22-21, and it will peak at 53.1% by the end of financial year 22-23. This is a clear indication that as a country we are contracting a lot of debt to finance our budget. The increasing public debt puts lots of pressure on this country, especially when it comes to revenue obligations. For instance, interest rates payments is projected to amount to close to 5 trillion. That is 11.8% of our budget, and this is really a huge figure. You can see, courtesy of the debt that we have been contracting as a country, now 5 trillion, it's going only for interest rate payments in the coming budget. Therefore, our call is our government needs to slow down on the pace at which it's contracting, especially commercial, external financing and domestic debt. Because when you look at the projections, government is borrowing a lot from the domestic market, which equally crowds out the private sector when it comes to credit.
CSOs also commend government for alignment of financial year 2022-23 National Budget Framework Paper to program budget approach, calling on government institutions to pay suppliers within 10 days after from the date of invoice to avoid accumulation of domestic arrears.
So we would love to commend government for taking a firm stand and ensuring that the National Budget Framework Paper for 22-23 is now aligned to the program-based approach. Secondly, we are calling upon government institutions to pay suppliers. We commend government for calling upon government institutions to pay suppliers within 10 days after from the date of invoice to avoid accumulation of domestic arrears. This is also another good policy pronouncement which is coming from government. Effective financial year 22-23, government is willing and is now instructing all the agencies and institutions to ensure that suppliers who supply government are paid within 10 working days. Because if you look at the budget, domestic arrears has been accumulating over time, and we have seen businesses that have supplied and worked with government running out of working capital because most of their monies have been locked up with government. So this new pronouncement of having institutions pay their suppliers within 10 working days, it's a good proposal that we, the civil society, welcome. And
they as well called on stakeholders to expedite the formulation of Agriculture Extension Bill 2017 and designing of the Agriculture Extension Strategy 2021-22, 25 to 26.
Another single spine in 2015-2016, and the cabinet passed a resolution to recruit over 5,000 extension workers, and we wish to commend the government that over 3,820 extension workers were recruited in the year 2020, financial 2020-2021. However, yes, we are concerned that only 77% have been recruited. Looking at the agro-industrialization program, focus area number 1, that looks at redirecting resources to production of key commodities.
We also need to promote climate-smart agriculture. And we cannot promote climate-smart agriculture if we do not have the extension workers at local government level to support the communities. So,
for decades, the answer to this question has been the extension service. Public extension agents, often employed by government or universities, serve as a roving agricultural specialist who provide training and demonstration to farmers. For example, extension agents may teach farmers how to test their soil and select the best fertilizer based on the result, or share information about the highest quality seed varieties of a particular crop ahead of planting season. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV.
Very well, thank you, Pedson Mumber there. And also, just to add on the extension workers, civil society organizations have always called for need for extension workers to be given an opportunity to them, because if government is to attain effective parish model development or parish development model around different areas of the country, there should be need for extension workers. But also to get back on the budgeting and how public debt is becoming very vital and also soothing in the economic downflow, impacting negatively on how we live, also on our sustainable development. I remember Honorable Minister Matia Kasaija, the Minister of Finance in this country, last financial year was promising us, because it was projected that the public debt would increase to 50% by then, which was 49.8, and it was expected to increase at 50% and later on drop at about 48 and below in around between May and June, which is now almost 4 months to then. But I have not seen that anywhere, because if civil society organizations and also the projected date percentage that is coming up for the year 2020 to 2023 is from 50, is going to be 52 to 53, I mean, we're not anywhere in progress, and that poses how then will the economy or the economic growth or economic recovery happen when we are still suffocating with the public debt. Therefore, Minister of Finance, government, do something about the public debt, and also let us minimize the borrowing of domestic areas or domestically, because it's pushing the SMEs in the country also on an edge, and businesses will go down because of that. But Smart 24 TV is here, of course, to motivate you, inspire you, and also make sure we drive businesses together and find a way on how you can recover. SMB continues. I'm Rita Cavaniero. We take a break. We come back.